Hi, I'm Dennis, and welcome to my channel. Uh, I did a review on some watches. I'm still doing a review on this watch, as you guys remember, the Tercel. Okay, and what I'm doing is, of course, I'm wearing this until for a month, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to find out how durable the whole case is under normal wear and tear. I'm just trying to see if it gets all mangled up and scarred up. It's my watch. Nobody owns it but me. Okay. And then I was going to do another thing. A lot of watch people out there know about the Seiko, the SAR 033, I think it's called. Okay. And this is like it. Okay, it's a nice watch. It's a real thin watch. I like how thin it is. I'm going to review this one in my next video, but I'm going to just touch base on it. You know how famous Seikos are with their luminance, right? This has no luminance at all. It's not a Premier either, or a Seiko Grand. That's it. But you can go swimming with it and don't have to worry about that. It's good for 100 meters, but so if you're swimming around, snorkeling or swimming, you can do that with this watch with no problem. But I'll talk more about that in my next video. So that's upcoming. And there's another one that's upcoming. This one right here. Now this is what we call a Vicwinox. Okay, this is it's a real super sweet, nice watch, and I'm going to be talking about that also in an upcoming. Okay, so my next video is going to be on this Seiko, and then the one after that is going to be on this Vicwinox. Vicwinox, not Vicwinox, by Swiss Army. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but right now, I wanted to talk about something that happened to me many years ago. As a lot of you know, I was in the service, and I was stationed in Korea many times. And one time, I was stationed on top of a hill in Seoul, Korea. It was called Namsan Hill. And if you can picture, and if you ever, well, first of all, if you ever go to Google Map and you look in Seoul and you look up the hill in the middle of Seoul, and there's a tower on it, a real huge tower on this hill. And it's like a hill with another hill, and it's got a saddle, okay, between the two hills. One hill's a little bit higher, and it has that needle on it, TV stations and restaurants, and there are people gather around that one. But on the other side of that saddle, on top of that hill, is another communications setup, and it is very restricted. And I was stationed there in charge of that facility. It had a television station for the U.S. forces there, and also it had flight communications for aircraft flying around Korea, and also it had some other top secret situations there. That anyway, the Koreans, the South Koreans, had their guard system, security system that protected that hill. And no one could come on that installation at all, no matter who you are, unless it was prior arranged and scheduled. And also you were cleared to be able to come on there. So you would have to apply through Seoul and you would have to apply, saying, I want to come up there, and this is the reason why, and this is who I am, and all this other stuff, and then it would come back either approved or disapproved, and that's the way it was. Now, even though I was in charge of all the facilities and stuff like that, that was one thing. But I could not just arbitrarily bring someone on the installation. No. I mean, I could come and go as I please. That's true, because I worked there. I lived, eat, breathed, everything there. And the other workers that were on there, I mean, we had our own living quarters, our own water source, our own electric source. We had everything up there. I mean, we were self-contained. And anyway, so that's where I stayed. And very secured place. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because an incident happened there. In the summer of 80 or 79, around there. I don't know what year. Brain is a little foggy on that one. I could look it up on my awards. But anyway, the Korean people were down at the bottom of this hill, along the roadways that are around this hill, which, that's not secure. Where I am, the compound was, but down below wasn't. I mean, it's just woods. It was all woods. There was no trails leading around to go walking around and venturing around that hill. But at the bottom, there was a little park, a small one, and a Korean family was down there, and they were having a cookout. And things got out of hand, and a fire incurred at the bottom of the hill. Now, when things happen around that hill, we're alerted immediately because of the guard system. The security system alerts us that something's happening and what's going on, so that we can be proactive instead of reactive. So we heard about this, and we heard that there was a fire down there. And so, okay, fires, okay. We're in the middle of the city. I mean, we're almost smack dab in the middle of Seoul, Korea. So anyway, we're sitting there and going about our business, and word comes that the fire's increased, and in fact to a point where the fire department of Seoul may not, and most likely will not, be able to support the suppression of the fire. Now, the reason being is because back in those days, there was no training on what we call urban fires and other things. That there's a different type of fire system, so you needed to learn different type of firefighting techniques. But anyway, so we're up there, and okay, this fire's coming up the hill. And sure enough, it is. The winds are just right. It is blowing it directly up this hill. And it's a pretty steep hill. You can't really, you can walk up it. It's pretty steep. The trees are really thick and dense. And but they're not tall trees, they're small trees, okay? But it's coming up the hill. And with that knowledge, the head of the Korean secure forces and myself sat down, and we're talking about it, saying, what's our plan? And we're thinking, well, if it comes up this way, it might just go around us, because we did have a clear field that was cut around our fencing area and no trees, but it might leap over. Fires can do that. I was telling that to the Korean secure guy, and Mr. Long doesn't understand what I'm trying to really say to him, even though he speaks fluid English. He didn't quite grasp the idea that a fire can flame up and then leap over something, not burn anything here, but it'll just kind of leap over something and then land and keep on going. And that's what I was trying to tell him. He could do that, and he goes, okay. Well, if it looks like it's going to do that and stuff like that, we're going to have to evacuate. And the plan of the evacuation, because you just can't leave a secure compound like that, even though it's a fire, security in that area is paramount, because it's part of the Seoul security system. Okay, this is an air security system that's being affected, not the ground but the air. And so anyway, we came up with a plan. And then as the fire got up higher, the wind was directly in line with our compound. The fire was coming this way, and our compound's here, and the wind was blowing that, and it was going to blow it directly on our compound. Not only was it going to do it, it was going to do it with vengeance. I could see this because the intense flames that were coming up off that hillside were really, really bad. With that said, I went back to the secure guy. Mr. Wong and I sat down again, and well, we didn't really sit down. We were standing there at the shack at the truck, getting our people on board. And I was telling him, says, we need to fight this fire. We can't let this equipment go down. And he says, how are we going to fight it? And well, we have our own internal fire suppression system for taking care of our compounds in case something happened. We had big old huge 2.5-inch fire fighting equipment up there, water system. Huge water gallon tank up there. It was a little over, I think it was 20,000 gallon reserve tank system for it. Huge system that was built by the Americans up there. Anyway, I told him I wanted to take the hose, double it up, take the east side and the west side suppression system, hook them together, make them one, and go off over the side of the hill. And go through the fence and down on the hill and start fighting this fire. No. You're not going to cut the fence. Okay? You're not cutting the fence. This is secure combat. I convinced him, and finally, after some talking, he allowed me. And so we cut the fence. And so myself and one other person with a few security guys, we went through. The security guys stayed at the cut in the fence, ready to defend it in case somebody tried to come in. People come in, not fire, but people, because that was a secure compound, and it was like having another gate in the facility. So that's where they stayed. They didn't go through the fence to fight the fire. It was just myself and this PFC that I had with me. And so we went through. And we went down the hill to fight this fire. And it took us, I guess, a good 4 hours of soaking the hill. I knew I couldn't put the fire totally out, but what I was looking to do was make a fire break so that the fire would come up to it and hit that break, and then it would burn itself out. And that's exactly what I did. So I spent my time and I soaked down this whole side of this hill with water. Almost used all that water, just soaking everything down, just spraying them with that 2.5 inch. And this hose was really powerful. I mean, it's like got about 100 and something psi. I just, lean into it and just, but I was blasting it, and it, not narrow, just flooding it. And sure enough, the fire came up, and as it was getting closer, I kept the wave going over the stuff, and the fire burned itself out. It hit that barrier, and it, even though it was intense, and the spray and the mist that I set up as a suppression for it, quieted it down, it cooled it down, and the fire went out. And that took, like I said, about 3 or 4 hours around there to do that, and I was just covered in mud and soot and everything, and so was the PFC. Anyway, and we went back up. The security force came up there, and they welded and fixed the fence back up and made it nice and secure again. And we went inside and took a nice breather. Everybody came back up the hill. We all took our places, and work was as usual. And that was what happened. Well, the very next day, I was up in the office and I was doing the tabulation and making my report on what happened, and getting scheduled for water to be brought back up to refill to even though we had a water pumping system to fill the tanks up, they're a little slower. So I was requesting potable water to be brought up in big old tankers to be able to pump it and fill up those tanks faster. Anyway, there was this car that came up, and everybody, all the security force was just running around acting like a bunch of crazy guys and jabbering, and I couldn't understand a word what they're saying because they're really speaking fast. They're Korean, and they're speaking Korean, and I can understand some of it, but they were going fast at it. And it was this guy that was coming up. What? Who is this guy? All right. Did we get scheduled? No. It says, he can't come on, you know that. It says, no, he can. This guy can come up anytime he wants to. Who is he? He's the mayor of Seoul. Oh, okay. He's allowed on here anytime? Of course he is. He's like the vice president of Korea. They're called prime ministers. Anyway, so this guy comes up there, and starts jabbering and everything else and stuff like that. And he was escorted over to the cut in the fence and shown how everything happened and everything else. And he was sitting there, he's shaking my hand, he's shaking everybody's hand, and everybody's shaking his hand, and it's just a big old bowing and shaking type thing going on, and then he leaves. And I'm going, well, that was eventful. And even my own commanding officer of my division couldn't come up there like that. He would have to schedule 3 or 4 days in advance. But anyway, nonetheless, there it is. That happened. And not more than a week later, the hoopla started hitting the fan. My commanding officer says, come down, you got to come down on this date here. We got an award for you. Award for what? We got an Army commendation and this here, and and the mayor of Seoul is going to be there, present something. And I'm going, all right. So I went down the hill to the company, and sure enough, in their big old huge whooplan, the Army goes, pin, whoopee-doo. But then the mayor shows up and he starts talking, this time in English, and talking about the situation and everything else, and how my quick reaction saved Namsan Hill and Seoul, Korea. Seoul, Korea could have burned down. I don't know if Seoul, Korea could have burnt down. Maybe in a wildest whoop, but I don't know. I think it would have just, if I didn't do anything, I think it would have got to the top and burned out. I don't know if it would have gone over the other side and hit the main heart of Seoul and caught all their houses on fire and burnt the place down. I doubt it. But anyway, so he gives me this big old hoop-de-doopy award and, a little thing and this metal about that big around, it's like a big old metal bong type thing, puts it over your head, for saving Seoul. Okay, that's that story of that one tour there, and I enjoyed all my tours to Korea. South Korea is if you ever get a chance to go there, remember, don't go there as GIs do. Most of the GIs go there and they treat the people in Korea like they're foreigners, and what they forget is you're the foreigner, not the people. Well, anyway, you all have a super fine day and keep your powder dry.